And welcome to another conversation on mindset. We're going to go deep today. We're going to talk about my favorite lesson, the one that has helped me move from a place of suffering and tension internally to a place of freedom more than anything else, and what I get asked most to teach across the country. So I'm excited to be able to dive into it with you. But before we do that, a little bit of a rapid review. We've talked about number one, E plus R equals O. E is events, R is the response to those events, which combine to create the outcome. The tougher the event that you are facing, the better and the more skilled your response needs to be to give you a chance at the outcome that you would desire. Next, in order to get that response, what we've taught, number one, is press pause. When things externally speed up, can you use your breathing, sometimes hundreds of times a day, to slow down and choose what your response is? Then once you press pause, where your focus goes, energy flows. And we talked about control the controllables. This is the diagram that I like to use. Just got done doing this with a different client. And what we did is put what are the things that are outside of your control, the influencers or the uncontrollables in the outside box. And what are the things on your journey, his journey happens to be baseball, that are 100% inside of your control? This box is the heart of you getting what you want. Protect it. Protect it from the outside circumstance, outside uncontrollables. And the better that you protect it and focus on this box, it gives you the best chance, ironically, to get the things, the results that are outside of your full control. Today, we're going to go a step further with the growth mindset. So I love Dr. Carol Dweck's work and her science behind the growth mindset. But I do believe that this phrase has been abused and overused in the last probably 6 or 7 years, because it is not as easy as just handing somebody a book and saying, hey, read this, and then expecting them just to have a growth mindset, or doing a couple of lessons on what the growth mindset is and expecting people to just want to give their best effort, to want to go towards challenge, to overcome setback, to take feedback really enjoyably. The reality is a growth mindset and maintaining a growth mindset in this field is hard. It is challenging and it is daily work. When I look at the growth versus fixed mindset, it's not an either or complex. It's a continuum. And every single day, you fall somewhere on this continuum between growth mindset in all areas and completely fixed mindset in all areas. But we can have a total growth mindset in one area, maybe in the subject you teach, but have a fixed mindset in another area. Maybe I'm becoming a better parent. So it's dynamic. And a question that I ask people all the time is, what gets in the way of you living out a growth mindset? If you really think about that, what gets in the way of you? What holds you back the most from living out a growth mindset? Somebody who wants to give effort, who loves feedback, looks at the success of others as an opportunity for you to learn and grow. What gets in the way to that? I've asked that question thousands, tens of thousands of times. Before I go speak anywhere, I ask that, and we've gotten survey responses. And the responses have been interestingly very similar. And it's what I want to break down today. A friend of mine, Steve Jones from Kimberly, and I are coming together to write a book actually focused on those two answers. And we call them the twin thieves. The twin thieves are the fear of failure and the fear of judgment. And those are what come out the most and what holds people back from having a growth mindset. So I don't think we need to teach you what a growth mindset is and how to have it. I think you already know it, but we've got to remove the things that are blocking it. Our kindergartner teachers understand this. When you ask a question, first off, kindergarten teachers, thank you for your patience and love. Wow, I could not do what you do. But when you ask a question to your students, hands go up all over the room because they want to answer. They're not sitting there worrying about what is it going to sound like, who's going to judge me. But over time, you start to see the twin thieves take hold of people. By the time that, you're teaching 7th grade, you ask a question and you can very likely only get a few hands. High school, you ask a question and you get crickets. And the reality is, it's no different for the average adult. And so the opportunity here is, how do you move beyond the twin thieves? Because people that live in this world, which I would say most people have never learned how to relate better to the twin thieves, so they are owned by them. And what that's like, I like to say, it's like living life with a heavy set of mental chains on. Of course, metaphorically speaking. But do you know what it's like to live under that feeling or thought of you're not enough? No matter what you do, you're not doing a good enough job as a dad or a mom or a teacher, or whatever you do, it's not as good as so-and-so's. However, the twin thieves work in your life. If we don't learn to relate to them better and how to take these off, it costs us a lot. We believe that the twin thieves are the greatest thieves in America. What have they robbed you of? When you live according to fear of failure and fear of judgment, you're not going to innovate. You're not going to take risks. You're not going to put yourselves out there. So what have you missed out on because you lived according to the twin thieves? And so the work is every single day, how do you learn to, one, be aware of the twin thieves and what I call the little person voice inside of you, to unpack and take those chains off so that you can be the best version of you. I get to work with people who have more resources than what they could wish for. And what I mean by that is they have more money than what they could ever ask for. They have multiple houses. They have the best nutrition. They have everything externally. But when I met them, they were mentally locked up, still inside of mental prison. No matter what we do, how much we achieve, it doesn't matter if we don't unlock ourselves from the twin thieves. And so to do that today, I just want to share a few quick steps that are way different than what pop psychology may teach you. First and foremost is, instead of fighting the twin thieves and that little person voice inside of us, I want you to understand that you are not broken for having that voice. Dr. Brené Brown, who I revere in this field, she is incredible, once said that the only people who don't have this little voice inside of them in our medical system would be considered a psychopath, because they usually don't have the capacity for human empathy. So in all avenues, even if it's in high alpha states, guys that don't want to admit that they have a little person voice. Like, for example, my work with the LA Dodgers, this is the first thing we talk about. And they have the little person voice. All the way down to little kids. They know what it's like when we talk about, hey, what's that scared part of you? What is it saying inside of you? So the first thing is understanding you are not broken for having it. Healthy humans have a little person voice, will experience the fear of failure and the fear of judgment. So the first thing is, don't fight it. Don't judge yourself for having these thoughts, but embrace it. The story I'd like to share with you is, over quarantine, my son loved fishing and still does, but he just fell in love with it. And we were good with it because it got him out of the house, burned a little bit of time, and gave us a chance to breathe. One day, when we were fishing down on the Fox River, my son told me he was dying to catch a whale. A whale. Now, I don't know if this is the best parenting decision, but I decided to just let him go with it. If it meant he was going to be focused for 2 hours, why not? But after the 2 hours, he was pretty frustrated. And so he ended up, when I told him we had to go back, and he's still, his little red fishing pole reeling in his rubber lure, didn't catch his whale, he took his pole and he just went, bang. Now, it kind of reminded me of myself back in the day, but I don't know if you've ever had that where you just see your kids are tired and they just react according to that. And that's where he was at. He was just tired, frustrated. He had a great time. But in that moment, would it have helped to scream at him, to yell at him? Now, I'm not saying I've never fell and, done that. But no, of course, that's not the most beneficial thing. At that moment, what's best for him is to, hey, pick up your pole, come here, and embrace him. Pick him up, give him a hug, rub his back, let him know it's going to be okay. I understand this is frustrating when we got to quit fishing, when you're right on the brink of a whale especially. But that image is what I want to share with you for how to best handle the little person voice inside of you. How to start to relate better to the twin thieves. How good are you at embracing yourself internally instead of beating the crap out of yourself? Embracing, holding a space for that scared part of you, whatever that might be, in knowing it's okay. But just like when we got into the car to come home, I put Drew in the back seat. I didn't let him drive the car. And so with the twin thieves, it's the same way. Embrace it. But then don't let them take control of where your focus goes. Put them in the back seat, and the you based on courage, the you based on confidence, makes the decisions. So number one is embrace that voice. You are not broken for it. Number two is question it. You see, most people, when we talk about this chart, where would you put your thoughts? A lot of people, unfortunately, think it's a controllable. And why I say unfortunate is because if you think your thoughts are 100% inside of your control, then who is responsible and to blame for every one of your thoughts? You. And I don't know about you, but my thoughts can be crazy at times. I'm glad that I know the truth now, that thoughts are not 100% in our control. And instead of trying to control them and seeing myself as my thoughts, I understand I am not my thoughts. I am the observer of them. So the way I relate to them is where freedom comes in. I mean, what we know from science is the most common little person thoughts are I'm not blank enough, pretty enough, good looking enough, skinny enough, smart enough. But whatever you experience that and how you experience that today, you didn't wake up this morning going, I cannot wait to think about how I'm not good enough. You know what? I can't wait to think how I'm not as good as my brother or my sister or how I don't make as much money as so-and-so. Like, no, they just start. And that should be your first clue that that's automation. And so after you embrace it, what we want to do is question all of your thoughts. Just put a question mark after them and going, is that 100% true? So for example, you get an email from your principal saying, hey, can you come down to my office? Boom, little person starts up. And it's going back of all the things you could have done wrong and what you're going to get in trouble for. And pretty soon, you didn't even have the meeting yet, but your little person voice has you fired. So you might as well just pack up your stuff. You see how quickly things like that can snowball? So before the snowballing happens, we want to train ourselves to question our little person voice. And most of the time, you'll find that no, it's not 100% true, but it costs you a lot of things believing it to be true. The last thing then, after you embrace and question your thinking, is to get curious about it and go towards it. A lot of times, our little person voice comes up around the things that we care the most about. Maybe it's a presentation that you want to give, but your little person voice says, no way, don't do that. Or maybe it is, you just trying something new and it says, heck no, that's going to be embarrassing when you fail. The opportunity is when your little person voice gets the loudest, go towards it. Don't run away from it. And what you'll find is usually the coolest opportunities and experiences in life, right before they happen, our little person voice is loud. So what I train people to do, number one, embrace your little person voice. Number two, question all of your thoughts. Get really good at deciding which ones are true and which ones am I going to agree and believe to. And then third, go towards what might make you uneasy or what might make you scared. Just like a really good workout, when you get uncomfortable is when you grow. Mentally, it's the same way. And so get outside of mental prison by doing this work. Stop limiting yourself. There are people on this call right now that if they were able to relate better to the twin thieves and transcend them, to be able to operate in spite of them, the cool stuff that would happen would be incredible. And that's all that I can wish for the people I care most about. Like for my kids, what I want most for them is to be able to tap into that innate courage, wisdom, and make decisions based on that instead of fear. I'll leave you with this one stat. There's a book called The Regrets of the Dying, which you can imagine what it's about. A nurse literally wrote about all of her experiences as she was by people going through the last stages of life. And the number one regret was living a life according to other people's expectations. What I hear in that is people who never learned the skill to get outside and overcome their little person voice, the fear of failure and the fear of judgment. So I hope that this is helpful for you. The way that you can work it is just start tracking your little person voice. Ask your kids about their little person voice. Just normalize talking about it. And what you'll see is once you start talking about it, it becomes easier to work through. Do the work. Life will present you with events. I hope that you have an awesome week.